This week on the Virtual Skeptics, Bob is sovereign, Steve is ecstatic, Barb is resting her face, and Tim is held by the sleepers. I'm your host, Brian Gregory, and I'm hosting this even though I've been disinvited. Hey everyone.
Oh.
Welcome to Offensive Cartoon Week at Virtual Skeptics. Let me introduce the crew.
Oh, I
First
know
up,
what
we got-
that one is. Okay, never mind.
What?
Do you, by the way, do you know how many times I've been told by my computer that disinvited is not a word? Uninvited is a word.
No.
This
no.
week, yeah, it's just,
I've been
I can't seem to get it through my head.
Hey, there it is. Those screens keep timing out on me because I don't know why. So if they're not there, just pretend they are. First up, we got Bob Blazkowicz, CSI's conspiracy guy, web columnist, blogger for Skeptical Humanities, and Skepticality contributor. Next, we have Eve Siebert, editor and blogger at Skeptical Humanities, and contributor to Skepticality and Insight at skeptic.com. Finally, we have Barb Drescher, former psychology instructor, blogger for ICBS Everywhere, and contributor to numerous skeptical
Just love to make
projects,
your tongue
including,
tied.
I know, Insight at skeptic.com, and The Odds Must Be Crazy. And no Tim. Sorry, no Tim. Let's all have a moment of silence for Tim and his illness.
And he's apparently having a moment of silence himself because he has the laryngitis.
Ah, yeah, yep. Poor Tim. We all mourn his passing. No, he did not die. I'm just making sure that's clear. So what's going on, guys?
You know, the usual.
Usual? Yes? Okay. If you're watching, thank you. If you want to contribute to our shenanigans, you can in various ways. First off, if you tweet something with the hashtag Virtual Skeptics, or if you comment on the YouTube stream, or if you if you ask us a question by the Q&A app, which now is working, we will, if we find you worthy, mention you or answer your question or various other things. We won't throw anything at you because you can't do that on the internet. First up, we have a trivia question, which Tim, before he succumbed to his illness, managed to contribute to the show. So we have actually a really good trivia question this week, and if somebody can tweet it while I read it, that would be awesome. Here we go. Thomas Lynn Bradford of Detroit, Michigan, committed suicide 95 years ago this week. And the question is, why was that significant? And I think we give partial credit on this one. I'm not sure.
How do you spell that? Thomas?
Thomas?
Are you doing it, Eve? You can do it.
No.
Yep.
Thomas Lynn Bradford committed suicide.
We put a challenge here on some Virtual Skeptics.
How long ago?
Got it?
95 years.
95 years ago. It's in the show notes.
I don't have that up.
I'm teasing. So if you can tweet or comment with, or yes, those two are the ways you answer the question. We will give you credit for the first. Who is that brilliant to do that thing that I just asked? Also, there's a couple of videos behind me. If you can figure them out and tweet them as well, I will mention you because that would be awesome as well. If you're offended by my videos, I'm sorry for your offense. Sorry that you're so easily offended.
It's not an excuse.
I was apologizing. I wasn't giving an excuse.
Okay.
I'm not supposed to be here right now, okay?
He has one foot in the grave. Go easy on him.
Okay. First up this week. Actually, Barbara's going first this week.
I am? I thought Bob was going first. I'm going first?
I see Barb after at the beginning of the list here.
Oh.
Who's got the slides queued? Let's put that question out there.
Yeah, because that's going to be the issue.
Hello? Anyone?
Slides.
Don't you have the slides queued?
Who's got the next slides?
Um, uh, Barb does. You were first, but
I haven't. I don't have it up, so
the
my
robot
slides are
does.
first.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I go
Okay.
first, I guess.
Yay!
Okay.
Tell us about your
so,
face.
Well, yeah, I was gonna talk about something else today, and then this popped up in my feed, and I just had to talk about it. So they're both relatively short, so I thought I'd talk about both. Starting with resting bitch face.
Yay!
Which I have a nice slide for that you can just leave up while I'm talking if you want. I don't care. It's
Oh, I love this. Look at this.
resting bitch face. Yeah, actually, it's pretty interesting. Both of the things I'm talking about were prompted by Washington Post pieces, Washington Post online pieces. One of them said. The headline was, "Scientists have discovered what causes resting bitch face." And that, of course, anytime anything says causes in the title, I'm intrigued. And I was not disappointed that that's utter bullshit. They did not discover what causes resting bitch face. I don't know that there is a cause to resting bitch face.
It's
That's what your face all looks like.
Yeah,
basically
they described resting bitch face.
Yeah.
What they did is they took this computer program that recognizes emotions in faces. So it's a facial recognition program that studies the there are markers of emotions on the face that we recognize that help. Which is one of the reasons why humans can recognize basic emotions pretty easily on other people's faces. And what they did is they actually had the computer recognize the faces of. They filled it with photographs of people that are renowned to have, famous people who are criticized for having resting bitch face, like Kristen Stewart and Kanye West. And the computer recognized contempt much more so than in other resting faces. The types of faces there are all these face databases actually out there that you can get where you can get photographs of people doing emotions and including neutral faces. And so compared to neutral faces, these random photographs of these people who are supposedly at their resting face, they register as contempt. So what they did is describe resting bitch face as having the qualities of that you would see as contempt. So there's things like you can see in Scarlett's face here, the corners of her mouth, and the eyes are a big one. The half sort of narrowed eyes a little bit.
And
really
one
show
raised eyebrow.
contempt. One raised eyebrow helps. It's not necessary, but it certainly helps. And so
And
that's
I think this would be resting.
Yeah, I don't think she's resting. I think this is just.
That is certainly emoting. She is emoting contempt. However, that is a good. If you could put a picture of Kristen Stewart next to her, which I did not do, I probably should have, you'd see resting bitch face. I have a little bit of resting, but the people are always asking me if I'm mad or if I'm okay. When I'm concentrating, I look like that. So anyway, it's a real thing, and it's basically contempt is the emotion that people are perceiving. And they're perceiving it because of the qualities that these people have in their resting face. And that's really as close as you get to claiming that you have discovered the cause of resting bitch face by saying that you have identified the features of resting bitch face. However, there was something very interesting in the study that these people did. I didn't read the original article, so I'm not exactly sure what the full method was, but I trust that what they did is they then loaded it with photographs just in general, or maybe with some very carefully chosen photographs. But one thing that they found that I found very interesting and totally believable, and I think is probably a new finding, is that the computer did not recognize or did not identify this quality in women more than men. And we generally, the myth is that or the idea that the common knowledge about resting bitch face is that it happens more in women than men. There are some men that clearly have it, like Kanye West, but that it's identified more in women than men, and this computer found no difference. So what's really going on here is we have a little bit of cultural bias in the way that we perceive resting bitch face. So we perceive it more in women than in men, but it isn't necessarily there more in women.
Well, it's even in the name,
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
That will push you in one direction or the other.
This is true. This is true. So I found that interesting. No, they didn't just discover the cause. Just some people just look like they are full of contempt when
So,
they're
like,
not.
how you said that you get resting bitch face when, like, it's some sort of disease.
I know.
But when you're concentrating.
Yeah, so I guess it's not totally resting, but I get that a lot. People are always asking me if I'm angry, and that's kind of the definition of that's kind of how you know you have resting bitch face. Is people are always asking you if you're mad about something when you're not.
Or if you're a woman, if they constantly tell you, smile.
Yes,
It's not that bad.
No, that
God,
just means
that's worse than catcalling.
Yeah, I squint a lot because I'm light sensitive very much.
Yeah.
And I think that may
Me too.
contribute to resting bitch faciness.
Yeah, it certainly would, because one of the features is the narrowing of the
squinty
eyes.
bent face you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Squinty bitch face. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was this piece that showed up in my feed about the blind woman who switched personalities and could suddenly see.
Whoa.
Yeah, this one's just full of juicy stuff to talk about. So what this is this is a woman who was apparently diagnosed with a cortical blindness, so that's something going on in the brain. That's a physical problem. And so she was misdiagnosed with this for 15 years. And what they discovered in therapy was that some of her personalities could see and others could not. And they kept working with her, and I guess now most or all of her personalities can see. And my problem with it is that the current consensus, or there really isn't a consensus right now totally about whether multiple personalities or dissociative identity disorder actually exists. I mean, as in this form that we believe we're talking about it anyway. So we have two things that are fascinating here. We have dissociative identity disorder, which used to be known as multiple personalities. And then we've got hysterical blindness, which is called conversion disorder. It's a form of conversion disorder. So what you've done is you've converted something that is psychological into something that is physiological. And we know that this happens. It's pretty rare, but it does happen. We don't understand the mechanisms behind it. But the dissociative identity disorder is another issue. The problem with dissociative identity disorder is that it's very, very rare, or it was very, very rare until the last 50 years or so. I don't know. I think the earliest, before 1980, there were very, very few cases. And most of those cases have been debunked as being not necessarily hoaxes, but it's not real in the sense that they were probably created somewhat by the therapists themselves.
They're confabulations?
They're confabulations, yeah. I mean, they're not necessarily hoaxes in the sense that the person who's suffering from it deliberately misled people, although that certainly could be the case in many cases. But even the most famous case, the one that Sybil was written about, in recent years has been debunked. Now, when I was teaching, introductory psych almost 15 years ago, this wasn't the case. I mean, we really believed this was a real disease. I mean, there were some people that scoffed at it, but the thing is, brain scans, brain imaging will show that the personalities are different. They'll show different patterns of firing with different personalities. But that's easily explained now that we understand, that you are in a different state of mind when you're when you're even pretending to be a different personality. So they aren't gonna, you can't compare them side by side and say that they're different. They're necessarily these different personalities that don't see each other or know about each other just because the pattern of firing is different. So it's a fascinating case. I mean, this is an article. I wasn't able to pull the original article for that one either, but a journal I've never heard of called Psych Journal. So I don't know how reputable that journal is. I do know that the dissociative identity disorder is still in the DSM. Mm-hmm. It's part of the DSM-5, but it's so controversial. I mean, it seems to be leaning toward the consensus that I seem and sensing in the psych community is that it is probably bunk. So it's sort of like, it's a little like hypnosis in that, not that hypnosis is bunk, but that in the things that people do under hypnosis are things that were suggested to them. You're in a highly suggestive state, and a lot of the especially in the early days of dissociative identity disorder, when they were treating them, they treated them with hypnosis. So it's just one of those things that I just go, it's weird. But it is weird that the woman can suddenly see. So
I mean, how do they confirm that she's actually blind? I mean, I guess this is a diagnosis.
It is a diagnosis problem, but there are definitely ways. I mean, they talked about confirming it through brain imaging feature. I can't remember which brain imaging feature. I'd have to look it up.
There could be easier ways.
But there are easier ways. I mean, people flinch when they can actually see. If you go like that in front of somebody's face, it's hard for them to not flinch. So, and you can't have movement, say, in front of somebody's face and have no activity going on in the visual cortex if they can actually see it. So there are definitely ways to show that somebody really can't see. But it's fascinating. Trying to explain why they can't see is another, thing. It's a little sticky. And I just found it absolutely fascinating because they managed to get this woman to see again by convincing her that her personalities could see. That's what I think probably happened. Because everything that I read about these cases of multiple personalities, I mean, it was a big thing. Like in the 80s, suddenly everybody had it. People were going on talk shows with 85 different personalities. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that happen, that there's suddenly all these cases? And another thing that's been somewhat thoroughly debunked is this idea that it's caused by these severe childhood traumas, which we assumed had to be the case. But that model of the way that we look at mental illness isn't in place anymore. We don't look at mental illness as being results from, bad parenting and things like that anymore. That view of it's gone.
It's engrams. It's not?
Yeah. No, actually, okay, so a student brought this up today, and I said, I'm pretty sure, we looked it up in the DSM, it's sitting right there, dissociative identity disorder.
It is. And but that doesn't mean that people buy into it. It doesn't mean that the professional psychological community...
You can bill for it. So. Yeah. Yeah, but so, and they even brought up the childhood trauma thing, and I was like, yeah, but that's also not really what people are... I was going to, talk to a psychologist about it. Mm-hmm. I've talked to a psychologist, yes.
Yeah.
So, basically...
You need to talk to more than one, though. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a clinical psychologist.
Your other personality.
That would be good.
She just doesn't remember that we talked to the clinical psychologist that lives in her head.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess you'd have to, I don't know, I guess they'd all have to go to school to get those degrees.
I'd like to point out that the the three faces of Eve has been an annoyance in my life growing up, which is multiple.
Two of them resting bitch face. What gives?
That's only one of her personalities.
Yeah, which is a film about multiple personality disorder. So that all about Eve, and of course, Adam and Eve, Christmas Eve. It was just one mild part of hell growing up.
Well, at least your name wasn't Sybil.
Didn't mind it though.
Because Sybil had 16 personalities. Yeah. I used to use clips from the movie. I mean, they did a brilliant job portraying that, portraying what we thought we knew about multiple personalities. I mean, things like different vision abilities. But that's interesting. Like some personalities need glasses, some don't. But here's the thing. We can change that with the situation. We can actually change people's eyesight with the situation. There are some interesting experiments, like with pilots, or plane simulators. Not even pilots, but plane simulators, where people actually can see better if they think that they have to see better. If they think that it's something that's really important to do, then they can see better. Their vision's better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can do those things. So changing the situation can change a lot of things about the way a person behaves that we intuitively may think are things that can't be changed or can't be fixed. Abilities and things like that, and brain patterns. Patterns of firing. So it's really hard for me to swallow that this is a case of some personalities could see, some couldn't. On the other hand, it's not very difficult for me to swallow that there's hysterical blindness. So, I don't know. This is one of those weird things that I don't really have the answers for, but I thought it was interesting, and I thought we should talk about it.
I tweeted a link to the article. So, it's a Chinese publication.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that it's going to be very enlightening. I mean, the abstract pretty much covered what I think, it was pretty clear what they did. They, initially, she was 15 years misdiagnosed, and then all of a sudden one personality could see, and then they kept working with her and more could see. Yeah. Real interesting.
That's a weird story.
It is, isn't it? Someday we're going to have a total consensus about it, I think. Not total, but more of a consensus.
Total consensus of... Interesting. Fascinating. Weird story.
Resting bitch face staring at me.
Yes, I'm going to leave her there. Here you go.
Take my glasses off here.
A few more seconds of... Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Eve is next.
And first, though, I should say that this segment is entirely Bob's fault.
I blame Bob for everything. So
yeah. Last night, he forwarded a tweet to me from Woo Publishers' Inner Traditions Bear and Company, although their logo kind of looks like it's Inner Traditions and Bear Company, but whatever. The tweet was touting a book called Beowulf's Ecstatic Trance Magic, Accessing the...
Trance Magic.
Ecstatic Trance Magic.
Oh, it gets better. No. Accessing the archaic powers of the universal mind.
Archaic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Written by...
Ecstatic... Yes. I was saying, Ecstatic Trance Magic is my Mannheim Steamholder cover brand.
Sounds good. Written by Nicholas E. Brink, PhD. Now, it seems that Brink probably does actually have a PhD in educational psychology from UCLA. His bio says he is board certified by the American Board of Professional Psychology, which seems to certify psychologists in specialties, though he doesn't actually list a specialty. He did have a clinical practice for many years. hypnosis appears to have been involved. Did he have anyone with conversion disorder? Did he have anyone with dissociative identity disorder? I don't know. But he would have hypnotized them probably.
Did he have resting bitch face?
He has resting silly face.
He's a gazer.
He's a gazer.
Yeah. Then he discovered ecstatic trance in the works of Felicitas Goodman, a linguist and anthropologist who seems to have done some real scholarship, although hard to tell just from a list of titles, involving, for instance, glossolalia, speaking in tongues.
Mm-hmm.
But then she went a bit peculiar and got into...
Because speaking in tongues isn't peculiar at all.
Well, as something to study as an anthropologist or linguist, it's perfectly sensible.
That's true.
But then she got into altered states and ecstatic trance. She also wrote the book The Exorcism. Mm-hmm.
Nothing. Go ahead.
She also wrote the book The Exorcism of Annalisa.
Nobody got that reference.
Michel.
I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what you said.
Yeah.
She got into altered states. And William Hurt.
Yes.
Oh, William Hurt. That's what you said.
And I've already wasted way too much time on this really bad joke. So go ahead.
So I wrote The Exorcism of Annalisa Michel, famous exorcism case, where the exorcist and the parents ended up being tried for negligent homicide in Germany.
Because of the negligent homicide?
Yeah, she, I think, suggests that the real problem, she wasn't possessed by demons, but was in an altered state, and that her convulsive anticonvulsive she was on for epilepsy that this woman apparently claimed she didn't have was really responsible. But anyway, it also seems to be the book on which the film The Exorcism of Emily Rose is based. Anyway, I didn't buy Brink's book because, although as Bob pointed out, I have a birthday coming up. Last year, my birthday present was a DVD of a community theater doing Beowulf.
You earned it.
Yeah. So I only read the Amazon preview, and honestly, I was stunned by the amount of woo concentrate contained in that brief extract. It's like 199 proof woo. So you've got quantum physics, misrepresentation of evolution, the work of Rupert Sheldrake and Dean Radin, Akashic fields, morphic fields, the universal mind, the Earth Mother, Mother Earth, a romantic notion of hunter-gatherers, telepathy, time travel, shape-shifting, divination, healing, and much, much more.
In the second paragraph...
Pretty much, yeah. The book reports Brink's, and this is a quote, journey back in time to be with Queen Walchtheo, whose story is the subject of Beowulf. Okay, first of all, Beowulf's story is actually the subject of Beowulf. Walchtheo's sort of in the background quite a bit. Brink also calls Beowulf the oldest piece of literature written in the English language. It isn't. We don't really know how old it is, but it's almost certain that Cadman Sam and Dream of the Root are probably older. I'm only going to focus on a few things that are wrong, because there's so much wrong. So first, let's say I accept the idea of traveling through time via ecstatic trance. This, though, is like astral traveling to hang out with Oliver Twist or Hercules. Aside from Beowulf's king and Uncle Heloc, the characters were probably not real people. Second, everything else. The frontispiece features this picture, if you could bring up the first slide. And there's nothing wrong with that picture, but it's captioned Walchtheo's tapestry of a ship with a line of men at the oars. So how could a fictional character have a tapestry? Did she weave it herself? Wouldn't that be difficult? what with the non-existing
Non-existing?
thing.
Yeah.
So I did a reverse Google image search, and I found the next slide. You can see there the same ship is right there, and the same things next to it.
They're Viking Nazis.
Well, the swastika is very common as decoration, and a lot of.
I know. I'm just being stupid.
But
Sorry.
the other thing you said is very on point. This is one of the Överhogdal tapestries discovered in Överhogdal Church in Sweden in 1909. Carbon dating places their manufacture between 800 and 1100, and that is the Viking Age. And the Viking Age is between, or the carbon dating range is between 300 and 600 years after the time when Beowulf takes place, which is around 500. So not so much Waltheo's tapestry, even if she existed and was into tapestries. Then, yes?
Just really quick, the reason why this is colored and the other one isn't, is that just image manipulation, or is it?
I don't know why
okay.
he. No, he uses the black and white image in the book. From it seems.
So it's just,
from the Amazon preview. I found this color one on. I had to join Pinterest to get this. Which seems to be the whole.
So disappointed.
Yeah, the whole tapestry. And it's damaged, but it's really in very good shape. This is how Stanley Krippner, PhD, describes the book. He also, I believe, is a psychologist. How he describes the book in the foreword. And this is a quote. Brink focuses on King Hrothgar's wife, Queen Waltheo, and her gouvernante, her teacher, Vanadi's daughter, a priestess of the goddess Freya. Waltheo's mother before her worshipped the Scandinavian mother goddess as well. Okay, Freya really wasn't a mother goddess, but whatever. As a result of this upbringing, Waltheo is an advocate of peace and compassion, which does not resonate with her husband's warrior lifestyle. As a result, second sentence in a row that's begun, as a result, she understands why Grendel was annoyed by Hrothgar's men's wild, drunken behavior, and her compassion puts her at odds with her husband. Okay, fun fact. Compassionate Freya got first pick of the warriors slain in battle. Odin got the leftovers. One of her names is Valfreya, Freya of the slain, just as Odin is the Valfather, the father of the slain. So, you know, nice, compassionate girl she is. Krippner admits that these traits of Waltheo are not described in the poem. So, I know you're wondering.
People, I tell you.
How does Brink know? Quote, he uses shamanic methods to go back in time. Unquote. Obviously. Brink says he felt a special connection to 3 shamans he met on his journey. Vanadi's daughter, that's Waltheo's tutor, Horsetta's and Halfdal. Now I'm going to concentrate on these 3 and what's wrong with them. Specifically, what's wrong with their names. Horsetta's is a patronymic, and it's Borsetti's son, and Vanadi's daughter is a matronymic, the daughter of Vanadis. And these aren't names. They're not names. They identify the person's father or mother. They're never used by themselves. They aren't forenames. They aren't surnames. You wouldn't call Leif Erikson Erikson. He's Leif, and he's Erik's son. The form of the name Horsetta's is correct, which is nice, and unusual. Although the son part's been sort of simplified or anglicized. Forsetti, it actually means president in modern Icelandic, but Forsetti is also a minor god, very minor god. But he's the son of Baldur, who's a major god. And Forsetti is said to reconcile legal disputes in Asgard. Vanity's daughter, and if you could bring up the next slide, is interesting because it comes from a kenning, which, like Whale Road used to describe the sea in Beowulf. The Disir were one of several sort of confusing, overlapping groups of goddesses that have something to do with fate. But when used in kennings, it just means goddess. So Vanadis means the Dis, or the goddess of the Vanir. And the Vanir were one of the two races of gods. Freya is the only named female member of the Vanir, mostly, unless you... Yeah, let's just say, go with that and not complicate it. Only named female member of the Vanir. So Vanadis is Freya. And indeed, it is listed as one of her names in some works. And Freya is also associated with Sather, which is a type of magic that Brink thinks he knows about, but clearly doesn't. So the name of the priestess of Freya means daughter of the goddess of the Vanir, or daughter of Freya, except that it doesn't, because the grammar's wrong. Vanadis is right. Vana is a genitive plural. It means of the Vanir. But since the whole name is supposed to mean daughter of the goddess of the Vanir, Dis also should be in the genitive. If you could bring up the next slide, which explains this visually.
I like how you're gradually building up to the impact font.
Yeah. So Vanadisar daughter means daughter of the goddess of the Vanir. Vanadis daughter doesn't really mean anything. Grammatically, it doesn't mean anything. It does not work. It's just wrong. The third name, and I also have a slide for this name, just so you can see how it's spelled, is Halfdal.
Oh. I'm disappointed.
Yeah. The second part is...
You're all built up.
The
last one was so impactful.
Yeah. The second part is probably Old Norse. And it's probably the same as the second element in Heimdallr, the Marvel comic character, who's also a Norse god. There's some dispute about what the Dal and Heimdall actually means, but the problem here, though, is the first part. Half, it's not a problem what it means. It means half. And it is used in names, such as Halfdana, Hrothgar's father. However, this spelling is the Old English form of the name or word. Yeah. In Norse, it would not have the E. Beowulf takes place around the same time the Anglo-Saxons and Jutes were just sort of starting to settle in England. So strictly speaking, there would not have been an Old English language yet. So why would Brink have met someone with a name that's half in a language that didn't exist yet?
Because he's delusional? Because he's delusional?
Well, we'll see if you're correct.
Maybe he went to the wrong timeline. I don't know.
Yeah. And you do actually see people with names that are half English, half Norse in some inscriptions in England, during the Viking Age. But you shouldn't see it in Scandinavia before there was an England.
You're just closed-minded, Eve.
Yeah. And there's really no Norse then either, to be fair. It's many hundreds of years before Norse starts to be written down, except for some very obscure short runic inscriptions. So these may seem like sort of piddling, niggling concerns, but if Brink met these people during his ecstatic trances, why couldn't they get their own names right?
They were illiterate, Eve.
Yeah. No, but how come they couldn't pronounce them right or get the inflections right? How can we trust anything else they say? Waltheow and Hrothgar, by the way, also are Old English. And again, Hrothgar would be Hror in Norse. And again, we're not really talking about Norse here, we're talking Proto-Norse. But Proto-Norse would not have looked or sounded just like Old English. With the Germanic tribes who eventually became the Anglo-Saxons wouldn't have looked probably just like Old English either, or sounded like it. It's almost as if these characters are figments of Brink's imagination, and that Brink isn't sufficiently familiar with Norse or Old English to get the names right. And also, the whole thing is pure, unadulterated crazy.
Quantum crazy.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it probably has something to do with quantum and vibrations or something like that.
Yeah. It probably does. Yeah, there's this whole science-y thing where it's all because of quantum. Also, drumming. And postures.
Drumming?
Scientific drumming?
No. Ecstatic, shamanic trance drumming. But it's very important. And doing the right postures.
And rolling your eyes, I'm sure.
Well, I certainly rolled my eyes quite a lot while reading it, but I didn't time travel.
You did time travel.
You didn't do it right.
Yeah.
You only moved forward in 1 second intervals.
Yeah.
I think that this guy and Andre should sit down and have a nice chat, and then they'll disappear.
Seems to be a theme tonight.
Yeah.
Wow, I got nothing to say about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to the beginning of the show, start over. Somebody start the drums. Wow. Okay. Thanks, Eve. That was eye-rolling.
English.
Next up, Bob's going to do something better than...
the resting bitch face.
Better than something.
That's just crazy bitch face is what that was for a second there.
Resting crazy face.
Resting crazy face.
Resting.
Oh, Michelle Bachmann.
There you go. God, there's nothing worse than that whole white around the eyes thing.
So, aren't you up? Or am I up?
I just went through the whole channel of setting it up for you, dude.
Okay, well, I'll go... All right, well, fine. Well, your mother. So, the skeptical world looked on with bemusement this week as the floating echo chamber known as, if you could bring up the first image, the Conspiracy Cruise was underway.
Oh my God! Well, I didn't know about this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it had shown up in my feed a long time ago, and actually, I kind of remember.
Cruise. It's a holistic cruise.
I don't.
I'm glad it's not a homeopathic cruise, because
that would be drowning. Is what that would be.
No boat.
Yeah. So, writer Colin McRoberts, who crowdfunded his ticket to the cruise, and has been publishing his accounts on at Violent Metaphors, has been keeping us updated on this very peculiar excursion, which is, at least in the website announcing it, included the likes of Michael Bednarik, Andrew Wakefield, Sherry Tenpenny.
Yeah. Good God.
And then it also had, I didn't see him as a speaker, but he may have been a vendor, Joshua P. Warren, who I once saw selling a wish machine on the internet. It was a wish machine. Or JPEG.
So really quick, who are these people?
Okay, Michael
Bednarik. Anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, Tenpenny and Wakefield are anti-vaxxers.
Yeah.
Robert O. Young was supposed to be there, but I think he's in court for his fraud, and he's the alkaline cancer cure guy. Michael Bednarik is a former libertarian presidential candidate who gives talks about the Bill of Rights, and I saw him at TruthCon. And he's very intense. And I talked to him. I interviewed him at TruthCon. And I had asked him at one point, so why this event? And he's like, I don't care. I just want to talk about the Bill of Rights. I don't care where it is. Fair enough. And then he also he vaguely threatens people. Well, he doesn't threaten people, but he's always insinuating that he has a gun on him. And don't you dare, take his stuff, I think is the way he put it.
Yay.
Yeah, so he was very nice. It was the first time I think I interviewed someone with a press pass, was when I talked to him. Anyway, I think the inadvertent star of this cruise will be this man. His name is
there you go.
Sean David Morton.
That is no resting bitch face.
What is that?
That getup is precious.
That's why I picked.
Impressive, doesn't he?
Oh my God!
He doesn't always look like this. I did, in all fairness,
that's not a proper
the most ridiculous outfit I could find him in.
I can't decide if he's part of the a bizarro Ku Klux Klan or in a Harry Potter novel.
I believe he was
once Isn't that
trained by Black Hat Shaolin monks at one point. So
yeah.
He's
so it's cosplay.
He's got
but he seems to be
a history.
Very pleased with his outfit.
Yeah. So he's not going to be the star of the cruise for anything that he did while there. It's what happened to him when he and his wife got off the boat. I'm guessing in Los Angeles. They got arrested for apparently all of the financial crimes, all of them. And they seem to fall under the category. You'll see. Under the category, if you bring up the next image. Bring up the next image of kind of tax protester, sovereign citizen type crimes.
States can't actually do this.
And snake infection.
They can if you wire them.
If you wire them, yes. You could do taxidermy that made snakes do that, I'm sure, Barb. Okay, so
this is a rare, springy, bouncing snake.
Maybe one of the snake's personalities can do it.
Isn't it one of the snakes that's on Qbert? Boing, boing.
Yes.
So, according to a press release from the U.S. Attorney, the Mortons have filed numerous false tax returns in the last decade. Quote, Melissa Morton, that's the wife, allegedly filed several false tax returns for the year 2007. The couple caused multiple copies and multiple versions of their income tax returns to be submitted to various IRS service centers throughout the United States in 2009 and 2010, according to the indictment, which alleges that they attached false forms 1099 OID to support their claims for refunds. According to a law enforcement brief on sovereign citizens from, I think it was a sheriff's association in Mississippi, the 1099 form is, of course, legitimately used to report income other than wages, salaries, and tips. Sovereign citizens use the form to fraudulently pay debts. To fraudulently discharge a debt, the sovereign citizen completes the form, designating the creditor as the recipient. The amount of the debt is listed in the withholding section. When the form is processed, the amount listed as withholding is believed to be placed in the sovereign citizen's strawman account as a credit. A 1040 form is filed with the IRS to obtain a refund for the amount stated in the withholding section of the original 1099. So what is this strawman account from which sovereign citizens are trying to extract money? Well, it's part of a fictional banking system that they imagine is run by the U.S. government. In it, the U.S. government issues Social Security numbers and birth certificates as collateral against the national debt. That is, as collateral in trade agreements.
Don't we all have like some sort of, I don't know, $5 million that's somehow tied to our Social Security?
Hold on. Yes, so the Treasury, in this fantasist worldview, creates an account in citizens' names that contains the citizen's monetary net worth. If you could bring up the next image.
Like a Fort Knox?
This ranges from $630,000 to $300 million.
So, was this picture necessary?
It was absolutely necessary. So
I'm rich, bitch.
Now the accounts, they believe, are under the name of a fictitious person who has their name, a government entity, or a corporate person. They call the straw man. sovereign citizens seem to think that they can extract money from these accounts or free money from the straw man by filing bogus documents with the IRS, the Treasury Department, and they even seem to think that they can discharge debts using this fictitious pile of cash.
This is amazingly complex.
Well, this is the thing. I like conspiracy theories, and I look into conspiracy theories, and these people are really deeply involved with the conspiracy. Like, they interact with it. They're filing forms and trying to pull the strings of power, but ending up in jail. And like, they're really engaged with it, more so than a lot of people who just poke around on the internet. These people are active ideologues.
Bob. Why did they have debts to discharge?
Huh?
Why did they have debts to discharge?
This particular couple?
Yes.
They in the past, I'm not sure that the money that they owe is related to
the beat of silence.
What's coming, right? I'm not sure that it was related to their previous problems. However, they were found responsible for a phony psychic investment firm.
Yep.
Phony psychic. It's redundant. I know, repetitive. But so it was called.
Was the company phony? In addition to the psychic?
Well, yes. It turns out that the way.
So it is a phony psychic.
The way that it worked was that they would. So it was called Delphi. Yeah, Delphi Investments. And what would happen was they'd solicit funds using his psychic powers, right, to make investments. Then a small amount of the money that was given would go into investments, and the rest would end up in shell companies for him and his wife. So they lost. I think the SEC said no, and they lost and owed a lot of money. Yeah, I'm stunned.
And then they sued the SEC.
And that was dismissed.
And then they filed bankruptcy.
And then, when they were filing bankruptcy, apparently, they kept filing all sorts of inane things. And I when I was looking through it earlier, I was looking on Pacer.
False information.
Yeah, their attorney withdrew because fuck these people, I think. Like, he can't help them, Yeah. They're unhelpable. And so, it was crazy. They've spent a lot of time in court over the last, 15 years. You'd think it would get old, but, Anyway, one of the counts, and so I was talking about how they can discharge debts using a fictitious pile of cash. Interesting, one of the counts, or should I say 48 of the counts in the indictment against the Mortons are, quote, for presenting false and fictitious instruments and documents, specifically items called non-negotiable discharging bond and indemnity, which purported to be actual securities and financial instruments issued under the authority of the United States. These documents were submitted to the IRS, the California Franchise Tax Board, banks, mortgage companies, student loan companies, and county tax collectors, supposedly as a means to pay off debt. Holy crap.
Did any of this ever work?
No, it never worked. It never worked.
Money.
In the folklore of the sovereign citizens, there are people who defeat them, who defeat the government. And when we went to, and Tim should be here, damn you, Tim, because we went to this chemtrail thing back in Atlanta. It was a movie premiere, and there was a guy telling me, that he was taken to court for some minor infraction that I don't know what it was, but he's in court, and he said that, he didn't recognize the authority of the court because there was a gold fringe around the flag,
right.
And that meant that it was an admiralty court, and then the judge said that he wasn't going to question the jurisdiction of the court and send him to jail for 3 weeks, and this guy's like, I won. I know, it was the weirdest thing. I mean, it's like, dude, he totally beat you a lot.
Well, with the Mortons, what's the thing about declaring their names of or fictions of.
Oh God, yeah. Well, they tried to dissociate like this legal entity, this fake legal entity manufactured by the IRS, which is in all caps. And the reason it's in all caps is because in court filings it's in all caps. It looks like. So when you have capital letters and lowercase letters mixed, then that's real, and they think that they have a trademark on it. Because, yeah, it's just.
What was he talking about on the cruise?
Apparently, it was a way of dodging vaccinations by having your child declared property.
Oh my God!
I know. I'm so glad you asked that question.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I know. It's like these people you like.
That's so.
Live on the moon.
Oh my God!
Because clearly that's not possible.
I know.
You can declare them small pets, but not.
You can't. But then you can't use them as a tax deduction. You can't they can't be dependents.
That's true.
Well,
you can amortize them, maybe.
Seen what these
but if you withdraw from the government account, you won't have to.
Wow.
I know. You think like that? Wow, that's some novel legal theory there.
Was he the one who was an attorney in law?
I don't know. There was another one who was. I think the other guy was the attorney in law instead of an attorney at law. But anyway, he described himself as that at the beginning of the conference. Anyway, so of all the posts that came from the conspiracy cruise from Colin McRoberts, my favorite is the one titled "Reverse the Constitutional Polarity of the Baryonic Trustee Matrix." Great
I
name.
think that's literally stolen from a Star Trek episode.
I know. Yeah, so legal gibberish on the conspiracy cruise. So Colin's a lawyer, and I just can't imagine what it's like.
He's a lawyer at law.
At law, right? Yeah, and it must have been agonizing to sit through.
Oh my God! Oh, it must have been fun.
But the thing is, though, he's watching them give really shitty advice to people who are just ready to wreck their lives with this stuff.
Oh my God!
And I mean, because it really is, and he points out in his post that you look at these guys up in Oregon right now, and they're laboring under very similar delusions about their exceptionalism from the Constitution. So anyway, one of the people who was there giving a pseudo-legal talk was a guy named Winston Shrout. If you could bring up the last image, he looks a little bit like Scruffy from Futurama, but without the hat. And I'd like to read a little bit from Colin's report, which we'll link to in the notes.
Sad face.
Resting scruffy face.
Resting scruffy face in the turlet. So
he looks skeptical.
No, he's really not. So Shrout is, quote, fairly typical of a breed of self-professed and self-taught legal gurus who advise people on legal matters they don't actually understand. I don't mean that Shrout is uneducated in the law. I mean that the basic vocabulary of law has defeated him utterly. He told the audience here that a court order is the same thing as a money order.
What?
I'm not joking. He literally thinks a court order and a money order are the same thing, and that complaints are a kind of court order, and that judges cash them at the Fed and keep 30% for their own retirement. I know!
I think I broke something.
I know!
I'm not sure.
I just like, what planet do you live on, man?
What? No, he just spends most of his time in ecstatic trance.
No.
Or at least some of his personalities do.
Oh my God. So this is just if you tally the maximum sentence for the dozens of charges against the Mortons, together they could conceivably face over 600 years in federal prison apiece. That's unlikely to be the result. It's not the.
Wasn't the other guy indicted before the cruise?
the other guy was indicted before the cruise, and I think in an interview he said that he had the feds exactly where he wanted them. That, like, he provoked himself into getting indicted very cleverly.
Yeah, I meant to do that. That's basically the equivalent of I meant to do that.
Totally, absolutely. Okay, so I really wish that the Mortons would have been detained on the boat and then be told that they're being charged under Admiralty law. Because that would take away, like, their very common sovereign citizen defense. That's not what Admiralty law is. But it would freak them out. They won't know the difference. So, yeah.
There was a quick question on Twitter from Mark Price. His wording is this the freemen of the land people again? And
yes.
Sounds similar.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Freemen on the land, sovereign citizen.
Yeah.
They're all kind of this weird, really don't understand the Constitution faction of political idiots.
So I just had this really cool idea of doing a cruise, and invite speakers of all these same people to do these cruises, and like market it as a conspiracy or crazy cruise to them, but to people that you want to go on the cruise, market it as a comedy. Comedy cruise! Improv!
Oh. Yeah.
You have to, like, pipe in, I don't know.
Usually these things go pretty well. Skeptics can pass, in the crowd. You have interesting conversations. Eve and I have both gone to events like that. It's interesting people watching. This one sounded like it got contentious with the journalists who were there, because there were a couple of them, and they weren't exactly sure if they were trusted or not. It sounds like there may have been some issues, but
well, when you open something like that up to the public, it shouldn't matter.
Oh yeah,
it doesn't matter if you trust them or not to report on it.
Yeah,
positively.
I mean,
so that was one of the damnedest things I've read in a while.
That was fun.
That was
a lot of fun. Okay, so just to wrap up the questions that are floating out in the ether, check out that cool image. Someone is Nathan. Nathan posted a version of the libertarian flag with the snake from Qbert. So don't hop on me. That is awesome.
Did he make it?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think that was already out there, but because someone had to make the association. That's that squirrely snake. Let's see here. Yes, Alex put a question in early in the show. Trans Magic Dance. Is anyone else singing the David Bowie song from Labyrinth? And thank you, Alex. That has been in my head for the entire show. So thanks for the earworm there, Alex.
Did I cough into my elbow?
I don't know what that was about. I was gonna just ignore it, but hey.
Apparently I did. Legal fringe claims. That was good, Nathan.
Nathan. That was very good. He posted.
He's on the ball tonight.
Yeah, he was on the ball. So go check out Nathan Miller on Twitter. He's pretty funny. So I guess that's all of our stuff. I'm sorry I don't have any robots for you tonight. They're in hiding, preparing for the next assault, or something like that. But we had a trivia question, and there was at least one person answering out there in Twitstaland.
I know it.
You know, Nathan put in an answer. That's the only one I saw that was.
Alex Murdoch, a minute before Nathan, said.
Where?
On Twitter.
Oh yeah, I see that one now. Okay, so he was about a minute earlier, and I think they're both close enough.
Yeah.
So here's the question.
We have more than enough prize for everyone.
Yeah. I know. We're going to give you all prizes. The question again was Thomas Lynn Bradford with no N, of Detroit, Michigan, committed suicide 95 years ago this week. And why was that significant? Well, see, here's what it says right here in front of me. He wanted to prove that spirit communication was real. So he partnered with a spiritualist medium to talk to him after he died. So I don't know the full story, but I assume he committed suicide to do this experiment.
Yeah, I was wondering, did he intentionally?
He didn't understand that it was permanent.
Mm.
I don't really know. So apparently he didn't successfully communicate after death. And there was a New York Times article with the headline, quote, "Dead spiritualist silent." Which I thought was funny.
It's very sad, though.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very
So congratulations, Alex. And I'll give Nathan credit too. It was about a minute apart, but Alex was first. Thanks for trying and participating, everybody. The video's behind me. Nobody tried, and
I got him.
Okay, Bob, tell us what the videos are.
Tim mentioned videos. One is the Pope, and the other is Storm.
Yes, very good. These are not animated by Tim Minchin, but they're Tim Minchin songs.
I didn't recognize it.
It's the one on the right.
But one of them is the Storm is a beat poem, and it's really, really cool. Go check it out. This animation kind of goes along with the words of the song. The other one was a little song that he wrote after the whole Catholic Church child molestation thing came out.
And I can never show that in my
emotional
class.
response to that.
I can show Storm. I cannot show the Pope one.
Yes. So the Pope one was the most offensive video on the show tonight, I think. To some. Not to me. I think it's funny. Let's see. Wrap up. Do we have any announcements? Oh, we do. This must have been put in by Tim. CSICon.
Yeah, Psycon again.
Psycon. Psycon? Psycon. I always say CSICon because, the show.
One.
Yeah! Oh, that's the wrong one.
Did you just have an episode?
That was my David Caruso impression.
Those aren't sunglasses.
I know, but it worked. Okay, so the date's been announced October 27th to 30th this year in Las Vegas. So
those are fun.
I've not been to one, but I hear they're cool.
They're fun, and they're...
It's in Las Vegas this year?
Yep.
Well, if it's in Las Vegas, I might go.
Yay. So Barb might be there. And
it's small, and...
I'll have to see the speaker list.
And it's nifty.
It's nifty.
It's a good
glowing review there from Bob. It's nifty. So go check that out. We'll put a link in the show notes in case you can't, Google that or something. I don't know. What else? Book time? Do we have anything else? Is it time for the books?
It's time for the books.
Book time.
Oh no, I guess we don't have a skepticality this week.
No, it's a little week.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a non-announcement that there's no skepticality, or they have no skepticality. But if you don't know that podcast, go check it out. It's pretty darn cool. I'm just go, Bob. I'm gonna do reverse order.
Okay.
Which means I would go first, but I'm not gonna go first. I'm gonna make you go first because I feel like it.
Okay, Tim Farley's been collecting data about the harm caused by irrational beliefs for many years. His website, whatstheharm.com, has identified over 670,000 cases in which people were injured either physically or financially because they believed things they were not justified in believing. This lack of critical thinking in the cases he's studied has resulted in 368,379 deaths, 306,379 injuries, and over $2.8 billion in economic damages. The failure of the victims to ground their beliefs in reality ultimately cost them their lives, or in many cases, their life savings.
Is that annotated?
Is it annotated?
Yeah, those numbers. Is it annotated as to when those numbers were recorded?
No, it doesn't say when they were recorded. But
so it must be of the publishing of that book.
Yeah,
so 2015 was the publishing of the book, so it could be 2014.
We should point out early and often also got the URL of whatstheharm.net.
Yeah, I saw that
it's
too.
whatstheharm.net. I will say, however, in the footnote at the bottom, they do get whatstheharm.net, but they call him Thomas Farley.
Oh.
Thomas!
That's a little sloppy.
Sorry, Tim.
Oh, man. Editing
You should
people.
have been here
Editing.
for your razzing. I bet he knows what it is.
Yeah. I'm sure he does.
Too bad he's not here to guess.
Yeah. Haha.
So, what's your book,
Sicko.
Eve? Or no, don't tell us what the book is. Read. I'm sorry.
This use of
We're doing it in reverse order this year. No.
This use of motif formulas is strikingly reminiscent of the way in which Anglo-Saxon poetry uses recurrent phrases to steer the narrative flow. Both poetry and visual art use particular formulas to create a rich and dense texture of metaphor and allusion. The profusion of formulaic phrases regularly used in the vernacular, Wildrus Weird, or Guardian of Glory, for Christ, Bonhus, or Bonehouse for body, Swanrata, or Swan Road for sea, and so on, have their origins in the oral transmission of tales where they aided memory as well as embellishing the verse. The equally stylized animal motifs of Style 1 and Style 2 resemble those literary formulas in encoding ideas in ornate visual structure and through repetition reinforcing the message.
Barbara.
In the first decade of the 21st century, the leading reform ideas in American education were accountability and choice. These ideas were at the heart of President George W. Bush's No Child Left Behind Act, which he signed into law in January 2002. No Child Left Behind, or NCLB, changed the nature of public schooling across the nation by making standardized test scores the primary measure of school quality. The rise or fall of test scores in reading and mathematics became the critical variable in judging students, teachers, principals, and schools. Missing from the NCLB was any reference to what students should learn. This was left to each state to determine.
Okie doke. If the front door is open, Barris said, during our absence, my cassette recorder starts recording. It's under the couch. It has a 2-hour tape. I placed 3 omnidirectional Sony mics at 3 different... You should have told me, Archer said. What if they come in through the windows, Luckman said, or the back door? To increase the chances of their making their entry via the front door, Barris continued, rather than in other, less usual ways, that's a bad word. I left the door unlocked. I'm skipping it. After the pause, Luckman began to snigger. Suppose they don't know it's unlocked, Archer said. I put a note on it, Barris said. You're jiving me. Yes. Are you jiving me or not? I can't tell you. I'm going to stop there. It just says a lot of jiving and then muddles along. What's your book, Bob?
My book was How to Think About Weird Things, Critical Thinking for a New Age by Theodore Schick Jr. and Louis Vaughn, which is, I'm having a lot of success with it with my students right now. They seem to like it.
Should have gotten their names wrong, just, Vengeance for Thomas.
Yeah,
yes.
by Tim Schlock and Louis Vin. You bastards.
You bastards.
You didn't have... Clearly somebody didn't do fact-checking.
Or editing. It's just...
it's not a serious mistake.
Yeah.
Except if you enter whattheharm.com...
It's sloppy.
It is. It doesn't look good. If you enter it, you end up at Interior Decorators site for some reason.
Mm. Weird.
Eve?
Eve, what's your book?
Anglo-Saxon Art by Leslie Webster.
That's pretty.
Oh, wait. More pretty. More pretty.
That's pretty.
Ooh.
Yeah, it is pretty.
Linda Soren Gospels. That is.
Cool. Barbara?
Mine is The Death and Life of the Great American School System, How Testing and Choice Are Undermining Education by Diane Ravitch.
And
So if you have No Child Left Behind and what's the other one?
What other one?
You have No Child Left Behind and Head Start.
Okay.
Aren't those working at cross purposes?
Yeah.
Just saying.
Actually, no. Technically, they're not, but the titles, yes.
Thank you.
They'll make a lot of sense. But that's the whole...
I think it was the delivery was the problem with that joke.
Oh, you think it was the delivery, you bastard.
Well, I'm an expert at bad delivery.
Wait, it was a joke?
Well, the idea is that the children that would normally be left behind get a head start so that they're not left behind. So technically, no.
But didn't George? No, you didn't. You don't want to be left behind in George Bush's view of the world.
No, but given a head start, you're given a head start so that you're not left behind. That's the point of head start.
If some of the kids get a head start, then somebody has to be left behind.
No, they're not left behind.
Some children have been left behind
because they're already there. The idea is that they're already rolling.
Not everyone can have a head start, because then there's no one that has a head start.
I know. It makes no sense. Variation. We're not allowed to have variability among human beings.
Nobody's special.
Yep. That's about it.
So, my book, since we're going to finally end this show, it's Scanner Darkly by Philip K. Dick, because
one of Connor's favorites.
Going back and reading all kinds of classic sci-fi stuff, because I blame Foundation from last week. So there you go. It's weird, but I like it. And is that it? Is that everything?
That's everything.
I think so.
Yes. Okay then. Thank you, all 11 of you, for watching and
I thought it was all 11 of
on...
us from being on the show with all our personalities.
With all our personalities, yeah.
That's true. There are actually 11 people on the show right now.
I have 3 Tims in my head.
You're not supposed to have Tims in your head.
Oh, is that
You're supposed to have your own personalities.
Okay.
Logo.
Come to think of it, are you and Tim ever on the show at the same time? You were last week, so some work.
The Virtual Skeptics is an production of What'sTheHarm.net, Skeptical Humanities, myself, my other self, and my other self, ICBS Everywhere, and Delco News. The logo was designed by Sarah Mayhew at sarahmayhew.com. Our theme music is by Music Hint, with Pitch Face, and used with permission. And Bob is dancing his camera.
I mean, it's like 28 days later.